This TV is lit, and by that I mean it is ridiculously bright. It also has very deep black levels. Those are the fundamentals for contrast, so that must mean this is an outstanding TV, right? Not necessarily. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Caleb Dennison, and this is our review of the Hisense H9G, very highly anticipated television, and I understand why. This 65-inch model is $950, and it's causing quite a stir in the TV community. The performance supposed to be amazing for the money, but as we've been, testing it out for the past few days, we've discovered a few things. In the end, I'm not sure it's going to matter to most consumers, but I do know that we have a bunch of enthusiasts in this channel who want to know how it stacks up. What are its strengths? What are its weaknesses? So let's get into that. So as you can see here, this TV does indeed have very good perceived contrast. It does get very bright. We'll talk about how bright in a second. It also gets very black, and so it's a picture that absolutely pops. And that is the thing that people notice most, which is why I think most people who get this TV at home are absolutely going to love it, because it has a lot of wow factor. But let's dig a little bit deeper. So I tested this TV pretty thoroughly, as I do all of them. I tested peak luminance in SDR and HDR mode. I used Theater Day for the preset, more on why later. I also tested the 2-point white balance and made some adjustments there where I could. And then I also tested the color accuracy. Now, here's what I came away with. So in terms of brightness, this TV is outperforming the claim. Right on the box, it says 1000 nits, but I was getting about 1150 in SDR mode. That bumped up to about 1300, mid 1300s for HDR mode. And at one point when I had everything maxed out, it went above 1400 nits. So it gets brighter than it's supposed to. The one thing that was really vexing though is that I couldn't get the white balance just right. So as I did the 2-point adjustments in SDR, what I noticed is that they carried over to HDR, and then I had to adjust them again, and then when I went back to SDR, they were still the same. You're supposed to be able to have different settings for each. So I was never able to get the color dialed in just where I needed it to be. And it doesn't really matter what I did. The blue is just excessive on this television. So if you care about color accuracy, know that this TV does have a slightly visible inaccuracy in terms of the color. Now that overabundance of blue sort of translates into like a magenta-ish hue when you're watching it. I don't think most people are going to notice that, but yeah, if you're really picky about color, just know this TV doesn't really get there. Even if you get a professional calibrator to come in, they're going to be spending hours trying to get it dialed in, and I don't know that it's worth it. Another issue with this TV is that it gets those inky blacks that are really impressive at the expense of shadow details. So we have a couple of tests we run for that, and what we've seen is that once it gets down into the low luminance grays, it just crushes them straight down to black. So you're going to lose a little detail there. The same is also true on the other end of the scale. When it comes to peak brightness, it tends to just over brighten everything. Like it tracks really high on what we call the EOTF curve. And when you get into those bright specular highlights, they do get bright, but also you're losing a little bit of detail there. Another not so bright and shiny aspect of this TV is its handling of motion. It's just not very good. And I'm not talking about fast moving sports getting blurry. I'm talking about there's a face on the screen and it moves and you can see this sort of stutter effect, and that goes across all kinds of different objects that are moving on the screen. Also, it has a little bit of trouble with tight grid patterns. So if you look at a cityscape with skyscrapers that have really small windows on them, what you're going to notice is a sort of moire effect, and that plays out in other on-screen elements as well. It's a little bit of a distraction. All of this boils down to processing, right? It's the processor inside which makes the picture. So while it does have very exciting color, it's got very deep blacks, it's got very bright specular highlights, other areas are falling short, like the noise I mentioned before, the stuttering and the motion, and then the banding artifacts that you get with low bit depth content, which we see a lot anyway. It takes really powerful processing to sort of tone those things down. And this TV doesn't do those things very effectively. However, as I said before, we're being extremely picky here. These are very nuanced issues that not a lot of people are going to notice. So for most folks, the H9G is an absolute knockout TV. It's going to take something very special coming from TCL or Vizio this year to really compete with it. Now, to get anything better, you've got to spend significantly more money. I think about the Sony X900H. Is it a better TV? Yes, it is. Is it way more money? Yes, about $500 at the 65-inch level. So I do believe that there's a good amount of value here. However, if you're extremely picky and you want the best and you're willing to save a little bit more to get a slightly better TV, they do exist. Just know that. So some other non-picture quality related elements you might care about. The user interface is passable. Now, I'm not talking about Android TV. Android TV is fine. It's getting in and making adjustments to settings and tracking those. The issues I mentioned before with the SDR and HDR being the same color settings, not great. Also, some of the voice control stuff doesn't work especially well. We did test it with the little microphone in the panel turned on, and frankly, I would just as soon use the remote for that. Most people don't like the whole always listening thing anyway. Outside of that, you've got sound quality, which is not like spectacular. You might want to think about a sound bar. Bottom line, this is a very exciting TV to watch. I think most people are going to enjoy it. However, if you're an enthusiast or you do any kind of video or photo production and you're tuned into what picture quality should be, you're going to find issue with this television. So just be warned, if you find yourself among those ranks, this is maybe not the best choice for you. For most folks though, $950 at 65 inches, it's a knockout. Thanks for watching, everyone. What do you think about the H9G and the review that it got? Do you agree? Leave me a comment down below. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and visit digitaltrends.com for the latest tech news and reviews.